Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be talking about 2024 real estate predictions. And I don't have a crystal ball. I do have a quartz cube though. So maybe it will tell us some real estate predictions. It's pretty cool actually. I'm very excited about it. But yeah, so real estate predictions, and let's jump in. I am going to share my screen. Okay, so let me just make sure I have everything pulled up. Okay. All right. So 2024 real estate predictions. And I am Rose Cabral, also known as Community Rose. And just so you know, you belong here, especially if you are a single woman, an artist, a creative, social justice champion. Maybe you're renting, maybe you're retired, maybe you're also a real estate professional and you want to hear what I have to say. Maybe you're looking to buy, looking to sell, you're ready for your next home. You also might be part of the queer, trans community, divorced or widowed. Maybe you're a millennial or a Gen Z, or the next one that I always keep forgetting, maybe like Gen Y. I'm not sure. Anyways, the younger generation. So welcome. You might be asking yourself, will interest rates go up or will they go down? Another question could be, will the market crash? And you also might be holding out to see if we will ever see 2% interest rates again. Spoiler alert. I don't think so. And maybe you're just asking yourself if you should stay or if you should move, kind of trying to plan for your future. So today I'm going to talk about my 2024 real estate predictions. So we're going to go over what happened in 2023 as a recap, because it's hard to visualize what's going to happen next if we don't know kind of where we've been. So then we're going to talk about what we know to be true. We're going to talk about what we don't know. And then I'm going to share my predictions. And again, I've never done a prediction video before, so we'll see what happens if they come true or not. And why this might matter to you is that you want to start looking for a house, but you are not sure when to start. Or maybe you have a house to sell, but you aren't sure if you should get it on the market now or if you should wait. Also, we only have 74 days left of 2023. So maybe you're trying to finish this quarter strong. I don't know if you can see that finish strong banner behind me, and start planning for 2024, because those 74 days will go by very quickly. So I want you to imagine for a moment if you could use the knowledge about what the real estate market has done in the past to help inform your future, what that could do for you, because that's what we're going to do today. And if you're live, you can share what you're most interested in learning about. If you are in the replay, watching the replay, you could share it in the chat. Either way, I mean, the comment. We'll see if we get any responses. Let's see. Curious about interest rates and also about the impacts of technology to the field. Ooh, that's a good one. Actually, I'm going to make a note because I Let me write that down. Technology and yes, I'm gonna add another one to that, which is lawsuit that I didn't include in my presentation, but maybe I'll touch on it a little bit because yeah, I have another prediction for 2024. So I'll add that on. Thank you. Okay. So who am I and why should I even think I can give you a prediction? Well, my name is Rose, and these are some fun photos that I love. I have a 20-year-old cat, and this is an old picture of when I cut my bangs in maybe second grade or something. I have a chicken. I also recently went to the Bold Speaker Series, which was amazing. And this was a photo with one of the speakers, Megan Morgan, who was so wonderful, and some other badass women in Sacramento. I'm part of the Sacramento Community Land Trust. I'm on the board and I helped found it maybe 8 years ago. We're trying to change the way that we view housing and home ownership and the speculative market of housing. I'm also an advocate for our unhoused neighbors living outside. And I just went to Savannah, Georgia, and went to a conference called Finish Strong with Susan Hyatt. And there's a photo there of Susan Hyatt. And yeah, that's the yellow shirt, the yellow background is from Self-Care Sundays that I attended in the summertime. That's a little bit about me. In my real estate world, that's my very first photo of when I became a real estate agent. How long has it been? 12 years? I forget. Okay. Okay. It's been a while. It's been so long that I forgot how long it's been. And that's some new photos that I've just had taken. I also volunteer at Loaves and Fishes here in Sacramento with other realtors, and I'm a top agent in my company of 1,000 agents. My very favorite thing to do is give my clients the keys to their very first house. So my goal is to demystify real estate for buyers and sellers. Okay, so back to what we're talking about, 2024 predictions. So we're going to talk about the 2023. I'm going to do a quick recap of what happened this year so far. And I am recording this in October. So we still have a couple months left of the year. So again, we'll have a better recap at the end of the year, but this is my recap so far. So I'm going to take you back to December of 2022. This graph is from that time when Mortgage Reports company polled 8 industry insiders for their 2023 mortgage rate predictions. And this is what they found. So there's 8 people there. And they have a 30-year mortgage prediction and a 15-year rate prediction. That doesn't really matter, but you can see that the range was from 5% to over 9% for a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. And I think somewhere at the beginning of this year, I estimated that they would go up to 9%, which we're not at the end of the year yet, so they still might. I'll have to see if that's on video somewhere, but that was my prediction. So, but as you can see, between these 8 industry leaders, they had a very big range. So that's what they said would happen in 2023. And we know, okay, so that's what they said would happen. So what actually happened for 2023 is interest rates started at, let's go back to 2022 again, October of 2022. So exactly 1 year ago, rates were 7%, but then they went low down to 6% in February. And then since February, they've kind of been steadily coming back up. And so today, they're actually at 8%. I know it's painful to hear that, but they're at 8% in January of 2022. So January of last year, they were 3%. I know. It's okay though. It's okay. We went from 3% to 8% in like 2 years. That's why. So this is what has actually happened. Again, we're in October of 2023. I think it might go up a little bit more. They're saying it's not going to, but my prediction is it might go up a little bit more. So that's interest rates. Now let's look at home prices because these are the things we know to be true. So this graph is showing December 2018 on the left. And then it's going December 2019, December 2020 is here, December 21 is here. And that's when this graph came out. And then they were predicting December of 2022 and December of 2023. So they said that US home price growth would go up about 15% from 2018 to 2021. Or that's what had actually happened. And then they were predicting that in 2022, it would go down about 5%. And then this year, it would go down another 5%. And so that was the prediction. So I like to let's go back and see what other people predicted to see if they were accurate. And we will see that they were not. Home prices did go down a little bit, but not as much as they had thought they were going to go down. And that's due in big part to the amount of people that were still looking for homes and the inventory being very low. So this is where we are with home prices. They've come down a little tiny bit, but not as much as people thought they would. In Sacramento, for example, which is where I am, the median price in September of last year was $565,000. And in September of this year, it's $585,000. So that's a difference of 3.54%. Higher, not lower. So, again, it might vary based on where you are, but overall, basically, the home prices have not come down as much as anybody predicted that they would. Okay, now this graph is very chaotic, but I'm very excited about it because it's very interesting and it shows various cities in California. And so over here on the left side, this is January of 1990. So you can see in 1990, everything was like very close together. Like all of the counties and cities, I think these are cities actually. I'm sorry, they're counties. These are counties. All of the counties were very similar in price. They were very close. And this is down at about $250,000. And then if you see in about 1999, 2000 is where they start changing and growing apart. And this gold line up here, this is San Francisco. And so San Francisco was like, bye, see you later. Our prices are just going to like go up really high. And then underneath that is Santa Clara, right by where I grew up. And then the interesting thing about this chart is Sacramento is this blue kind of aqua line down here. And so it didn't quite shoot up as much as any of the other counties, which is very interesting to me. But yeah, just to see that like disparity between like 1990, everything was so close together, and then it like totally like expanded out. So these are the things that I find interesting. Okay, the other thing that we know is days on the market. And so what days on the market means is how long a house is listed and on the market before it actually sells. And so, or goes pending. And so this is looking at 2004, 23 days on the market was standard, and then up to, or the average. And then in 2007, it went up to 95 days. And again, it kind of bounced around there. When I started real estate, it was about 81 days, which is sounds very long for a house to be sitting on the market. And then we saw it start going down and down and down. And so like during the peak pandemic wild market that we had in 2021, 22, the average days on market was only 16. So a house was only on the market for 2 weeks before somebody bought it. You can see though that number has been steadily going up a little bit. And so I think now the average days on market is like 25 or 26 here in Sacramento. Okay, the other thing we know is housing supply. So how many houses we have for the amount of people who are looking for them and would like to buy them. So you can see here at the peak was 2007, we had 14 months of supply, which is a lot. And then it just kept going down from there. And in January of this year, we had less than a month's worth of housing. So everybody that was looking for a house bought them, then there was only a month's worth of supply. Did that make sense how I said that? Anyways, 1 month's worth of supply. It's not a lot of supply. There weren't a lot of houses on the market. Inventory is very low. People were buying them, they would go pending, and then there weren't any more active houses coming onto the market. So we know that for the past year, housing supply has been very low, like extremely low. Okay, so that's kind of a recap of where we have been over this past year. We have seen housing prices didn't go down as much as people thought they would. Interest rates went up way more than people thought they would. And the recession has been like a question on everybody's minds, but it hasn't actually turned into this big disaster that everybody thought it would yet. So that's a recap. So now on to what we know that will be happening in 2024. We know that it is an election year, and I know in Sacramento we have ballots are due on March 5th. And then in November, there's the other election as well. So what I have found, the research that I have found on election years is the real estate market usually goes down during an election year, mostly due to uncertainty. So when people don't know who's going to be in office, there's a lot of uncertainty, and people don't like to move or make big changes when there's uncertainty. Although we also just went through a pandemic, so I think that's kind of, I think people are used to more uncertainty now, more than they have ever been before. But according to a study that was done in previous elections, the appreciation of homes drops by 1.5% during an election year compared to the previous year. The other thing is presidential elections can lead to big shifts in government and policy. So if somebody gets elected, they might change the policy that was in place before, and it can definitely impact housing. It can impact development. It can impact how many houses are built. It can impact like things like tax credits, first-time homebuyer tax credits, or deductions that you might get. So these are all things that people think about during an election year. we don't know. Yeah. The biggest thing is uncertainty. Like, we don't know who's going to win. We don't know what's going to happen. So those are like things to think about during the election year. We also know that 2024 is an Olympic year. And so in 2024, the Olympic Games will be in Paris. And so we know that the real estate is impacted, and the country where the games are held, it can be very impacted, and they can get a lot of revenue from tourists and just improved renovation projects. So like I know in Paris, they are creating more venues, and they're making things more beautiful for people. So like so that will increase the value, right? Like when you put money into a place, it makes it more desirable, and then more people want to be there during the games and then even after the games as well. So the Olympics in 2026 will be in Italy, and in 2028 they'll be in California. They're actually going to be in LA. And so like I said, increased tourism and increased rental income potentially. So if you're near those venues, you might, if you have like an Airbnb, you might get a lot more income for the Olympics. I have some stats here about kind of some smaller cities, like Barcelona in 1992. The price of the property in that city increased by 130% in the 5 years prior to the Olympics. And it was mainly due to renovation of the city. So it included a high-speed train connecting the city to the capital. And we know that when people can move around easier and quicker, they will, it'll impact their choice on where they want to live. And a similar increase happened in Atlanta during the 1996 Olympic Games. Fun fact, I actually was able to go there because we won a trip. I didn't pay for it. We won. And the same thing happened in the Sydney Games in 2000 and Athens in 2004. So it would be interesting to look at LA now and then see what happens by 2028 when they have the Olympics, although their housing prices are already pretty high. So that's some interesting information that I just learned about the Olympics and how they impact real estate. Okay, the other thing happening in 2024 is we are going to have a total solar eclipse. So we just had a partial solar eclipse, and actually a lot of people were excited about that one, but this one will be a total solar eclipse, and it is happening on April 8th of 2024, and it's actually going to span 15 states. And so we know that those 15 states and the areas, kind of the range of where it can be seen, is having a very big increase on people traveling there and tourism. And so like Airbnbs and hotels are being booked out, and probably already booked out now for next year. And so it impacts real estate in that way of like maybe more residential income generating properties and rentals. And so yeah, another thing to think about is just astrology in general. I have a lot of clients who think about like where the sun is, where the moon is, what's happening in their house that's related to house in their like astrology chart. So something else interesting to think about if you're looking to buy or sell a house is what's happening with your own astrology. So what we know is that these things are going to continue impacting real estate. Persistent inflation, if we have more interest rate hikes, if we continue to have global uncertainty caused by conflict, continued conflict. We have the Ukraine conflict, we have Palestine and Israel now. So that creates a lot of global uncertainty. We also have volatility in the global and the US stock market. And right now, that's mainly because we don't have a Speaker of the House. So again, uncertainty about what will happen. There is still a fear of recession and economic uncertainty and continued supply chain disruptions and labor shortages. So now about what we don't know. A lot of things. But we don't know when interest rates will be. So we talked before about kind of like their predictions and where their predictions ended up landing. And the Mortgage Bankers Association has predicted that mortgage rates will come down soon, they said. They think they will be 6% by the end of 2024 and 5.5% by the end of 2025. So that's in like 2 years that they're going to drop maybe 2%, which is not, it is a lot and it isn't a lot. And so this chart here, you can see the gold line at the top is the one that we're looking at. So it goes from 2017 when they were about 4% down to 2021 when they were 3%. And then they've been rising ever since. This is 2023. Like I said, we're at 8% as of today. And their prediction is they will decrease down by the end of 2025. They'll be at 4% again. That's what they're saying, but we don't know. We don't know what interest rates will be. The other thing we don't know is what home prices will be, because we keep hearing people say the market's going to crash and home prices will be very low again. But this graph actually shows us from 1992, we have been steadily increasing. And of course, in 2008, we had the crash that we can see. It was a big crash. And then we've been steadily increasing since 2022, especially over these past 3 years, we've increased a lot. And so we don't know what the rest of this chart will look like. It's based on a lot of those things that I just talked about. But that is going to be a question and an unknown. You can see here in 2023, they predicted that we would be in a crash again, these red lines, and we're not there. So the other thing we don't know is who will win the elections, both your local elections, because that can have an impact on what can be built in your local city and county, and also your state elections, and of course, the national election. All of these things have implications on housing and who can build housing and where it gets built, and even funding for first-time homebuyer programs. Like we have the California Dream for All program is coming back next year because they put more money in to ensure it could come back. And so those decisions happen at the city, county, national level. So it does matter who wins the elections because they determine where money goes and what policies are made. Okay, the moment you have been waiting for. My prediction, and I will preface it that I do not have a crystal ball. I do not know what's going to happen in the future. So please don't hold me to these if they are wrong. And this is just what I think is going to happen based on my experience as an agent for over a decade. Okay. My prediction is that interest rates will go up just a little bit, probably. I don't think we're going to go up to 10%, but I think we might see 9%. as I said at the beginning of this year, 9% is where I think we might go to. And that sounds very high compared to the low interest rates that we've had. And overall, it is still lower than 20% where they have been in the past. But also when they were 20%, housing prices were much lower. So it's hard to compare those two. I also predict that the inventory shortage will continue because we cannot build homes fast enough to keep up. We don't have enough permits being pulled. We don't have enough developers building. We also have sellers that potentially could sell their houses, but they're choosing not to because they have such a great interest rate that they're like, no, I'm just going to stay here with my 3% interest rate and I'm not going to move. It's also still difficult to get supplies for building houses. So I think the inventory shortage of homes will continue. I'm also predicting that people will get creative to buy and sell homes because people will need to continue moving for whatever reason. People always have to move. And so I think that sellers will be offering seller financing where the seller carries the loan. Maybe they have a 3% interest. So they'll carry that 3% interest. And then the new buyer could get like a 6% interest and they'll pay the difference. I'm not explaining this very well, but basically the seller finances the loan. I think sellers will also give buyers a credit so that they can buy down their interest rate. So like today, if interest rates are 8%, you can buy 2 points and you can get it down to 6%. And whatever the cost is of those 2 points, if it's $10,000 or $15,000, the seller can pay for that so that the buyer can get a lower interest rate. Also, the seller can pay for closing costs for the buyer. So I think buyers and sellers will be getting more creative so that they can buy and sell homes. We will see, my prediction, another prediction is we will see less real estate agents. And I'm really okay with this because we saw a lot of agents hop into the market in 2021 because it was hot. Homes were selling fast. They didn't have to do much work. They didn't have to, I'll just leave it at that. They didn't have to do much work, which maybe they should have done more, but it's okay. So more than 156,000 people got their real estate licenses in 2021 and 2020. That is 60% more than pre-pandemic 2018 and 19. Another interesting fact is more than 10% of agents quit in 2008 when the real estate market crashed. So when the market crashed, 10% of agents were like, no, I'm leaving. This is too hard. And I'm okay with that because I have had to deal with a lot of these newer agents that didn't necessarily know how to represent their clients in the best way or watch out for things that their clients needed, like inspections or just anyways. Not all agents are created equal. So I'm excited. I'm okay with some of the agents being like, this is not for me. Leave it to the expert agent. Okay. Another prediction I have is that we will see more ADUs, which means accessory dwelling unit, and tiny homes. And the reason for this is because people may have land and they want to put one of these tiny homes on that land for a relative to move into, for a student to move into. Maybe they're going to move into it and somebody else is going to move into their big house because they don't need all that space. And so also in California, just last week, we had the signature of Assembly Bill 1033, which means that you can now sell your ADU in California, separate from your house. So if you have an ADU on your property, you can sell that ADU to somebody and they will own the ADU. They won't own the land, they'll own the ADU. And because of that, I think we're going to see a lot more of these, which is great because it's a quicker way to build housing and add housing to some of these really big lots that we have, or even medium-sized lots that we have, especially here in Sacramento. Yeah, so I think this will be great as well for first-time home buyers and people that have a smaller budget. Oh, that was all. Okay. Okay. The other prediction I was gonna add is the whole real estate industry. Yeah. Building a small home. Yes. Talking about building a small home on your property. I think now is a really good time to do that. And I'm even thinking about it because yeah, you could rent it out or you could potentially sell it. It's a great idea for many reasons. The other thing that I was going to add, thank you for reminding me at the very beginning, and I actually didn't really talk about technology, but so I'll add a prediction. So my prediction about technology is we will use it a lot more. So AI will become more common than it is now, and people use it to write descriptions for houses and the other interesting thing about technology is the multiple listing service. There's a whole big lawsuit happening with it. And the Association of Realtors actually owns the multiple listing service, and they're in a lawsuit. And the lawsuit is happening, well, one of them is happening right now this week. But I think there's another one happening next year, going to actually the trial. And so I think those will change the way that we potentially do business and help buy and sell real estate. Because some of the changes are about representation and whether buyers will be represented by a real estate agent or not. And so it'll be very interesting to see what happens. My prediction on this one, I'm predicting that how we buy and sell houses will change drastically. And I'm a little bit worried about that prediction because I want to make sure that buyers can still be represented. There's some question about who will pay the commission for the buyer's agent. And one of my worries is that buyers will have to pay that commission for their agent representation. And instead of paying that commission, I think they might decide like, oh, I don't need an agent. I'm just going to buy the house by myself. It'll be fine, because then they could save money, which is very scary to me because there is a lot that goes into buying a house and a lot of legal paperwork that's involved. And if you haven't done it before and don't have proper representation, it can come back to haunt you like 7 years later. So that is one of the interesting things that I will be paying attention to right now through the end of the year, and then especially next year as well, to see if the actual way that we represent our clients and that buyers and sellers are represented changes. And the multiple listing service is where all the houses like live, where we go look them up and see where they all are. And if that changes and it becomes a whole different system, like maybe the technology will change to a different provider, then that will be interesting to see as well with that change. So yeah, thanks for pointing out about technology. And yeah, so my predictions is technology will be something that we love and hate, as always. Yeah, and then in the chat, let's see. We can't afford to buy a new home, but building a tiny home seems more doable. Yeah, definitely. And so it'll be interesting too, because we have a lot of vacant land, like here in Sacramento. And so, like, if you can buy a piece of vacant land and build a tiny home for less than like the cost of a starter home that's already built, right? Then that might allow more people to enter the market, first time home buyers especially. So yeah, thanks for letting me add on another prediction. But even though we don't have all the answers, the key is really to be prepared because we don't have a crystal ball and we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, the environment is another thing that I didn't talk about, but like what's going to happen with that? Are we going to have another year where we have a bunch of rain and a bunch of windstorms that like knock trees over? Right? Those things can also impact the housing market and what happens and where people move to or don't move to. What insurance companies charge also has an impact on if people can afford housing. So yeah, so the key is to be prepared. Any other, I'd like to hear if you want to share what's been the most interesting or helpful to you today, or if you have any other questions or things that I didn't mention.
I liked hearing about what was it called? AUD or ADU?
The ADUs,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that was just, I don't know, maybe it was just because you were affirming something that I'd already been talking about in like my personal life. But I was just like, oh wow, I didn't know about that. And then the information about it being able to be like zoned separately, like if you wanted to sell that or like rent that, that's just a way to kind of be building your assets or whatever without striking out on like a whole new home or something like that. And so, like, yeah, just the place where I'm at right now with my partner, like, oh, like, okay, we have some money, but we can't really afford to buy like a whole new home. We have our existing home. And so then, like, thinking down the line, okay, if like mom or dad or someone needs to live somewhere, like where would we want to put them? Were we bringing them into our house? We certainly would have room for them inside the house, but we maybe need a little space, you know what I mean? And so just kind of exploring those options and like, yeah, how to navigate that. So that was just interesting to me to hear about that. And then your, prediction that that might be more common. Like I could see things like that being more accessible than, from a financial standpoint than like buying a new home, especially if rates are so high, costs are high, etc.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Those are all, yeah. I'm glad that I was aligned with that. And
Yeah.
I bet you're not the only one either, because
Yeah.
we are seeing more permits being pulled for ADUs, and we know also that the city of Sacramento at least is trying to make it more attainable. I received a postcard in the mail that was like ADU question and answers, like go to this
Oh,
website.
interesting.
Yeah, and so I can share that link as well, but um yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. And like if you have a home, like if you have a big lot, like maybe you have an acre lot, somebody has an acre lot. Like how many tiny homes can we put on there?
Right.
Maybe we're making little tiny home villages for people, especially, and then right, it can tie into our unhoused population, right?
Mhm.
And our student population, and like maybe we're making
Yeah.
these little communities, and so yeah. I think tiny homes can solve a lot of our they can solve a lot of things in the short term
Hmm.
and be a stepping stone maybe for some people, and then yeah, I don't know, I think it also goes back to like minimalism, and like a lot of people are being like maybe we don't need all of this stuff because then we have to take care of
Yeah.
it and clean it, and
Yeah.
anyways, that's how I'm feeling as I sit with all the stuff behind me, but I'm working on it. Okay. So, so how do we keep our journey towards your next home adventure going and realizing that, maybe you want to buy next year, maybe you want to wait until 2025 when interest rates might be 2% lower. I mean, if you want to buy a house, I would say, and you can afford it, I would say do it now. Just because what we've seen over the past decade is that home prices continue to go up. But I think the best thing you can do is what you're doing right now, watching this video, participating in this conversation, is learning as much as possible and seeing where you are now and seeing where you want to get to. So I have a couple of resources. I have the Love Selling Your Home Guide. So if you currently own your home or know somebody that owns their home and they're thinking about selling it, this guide has a lot of information in it about how to do that. Also, it's reminding me that I've been a real estate agent since 2011. Okay. And then I also have the You Can Be a Homeowner Self-Paced course. And so if you have never bought a home before, or maybe it's been a while, you can jump into this self-paced course. I have short videos that will guide you through the process to try to help keep it from being too overwhelming. And also in the course, I have step-by-steps, and I also have an online community where you can go in and ask questions and get support from other community members and people who have been through the home buying journey, or maybe they're going through it at the same time with you. And the idea is just to make it a community where you feel like you're not doing it all on your own. And so the big question is, what will your next step be? I would love to hear about what you think about my predictions in the comments of this video. If you think I'm right, hold on one second. I need some water. Okay, if you think I'm right, if you think I'm way off base, I've never done a prediction video before, so it'll be really interesting to look back on it and see if I was close to right. And again, these are just some of my really awesome clients that I love to highlight and show you what's possible if you are considering becoming a homeowner or a home steward. And thank you for joining me today. And we'll be back here in 2024 to find out what actually happened and maybe do another recap video. Bye.